Welcome to Asian Quick Take. I'm Jacob. The role of the United States in international affairs has been a subject of ongoing debate, especially in light of its prominent position within the global economy. However, American dominance is far from unassailable. China is gradually eroding the foundations of the U.S. economy through the promotion of the renminbi and strategic partnerships with third-world nations, thereby reducing dependence on the U.S. dollar. The Trump administration instigated a trade war with China, a policy that has persisted under the subsequent Biden administration, resulting in continued tensions in U.S.-China relations. Nevertheless, China has astutely identified vulnerabilities within the American economic landscape and has devised a series of strategies to address them, with a particular focus on the Achilles heel of the U.S. dollar. Throughout history, the U.S. dollar has held its status as an international reserve currency and wielded dominance in cross-border trade settlements. As the sovereign nation responsible for minting the dollar, the United States has reaped significant economic benefits from this monetary hegemony, while concurrently upholding its global superpower status. Nevertheless, regardless of the dollar's resounding dominance, it fundamentally represents a reflection of a government's creditworthiness. Since the collapse of the Bretton Woods system, the U.S. dollar's creditworthiness is no longer internationally bolstered but rather reliant solely on its inherent strength and productive capacity. Any diminishment of American might and productive capabilities will subsequently erode the credibility of the dollar. Well before the Afghan War and the period of deindustrialization in the United States, fractures in the dollar's creditworthiness had begun to appear. During that time, the continued use of the dollar was primarily habitual and predicated on the perception of America's military prowess. China has adopted a two-pronged approach to undermine the hegemony of the U.S. dollar. Firstly, it is actively promoting the use of the renminbi while concurrently diminishing reliance on the dollar. Secondly, China is effectively demonstrating a decline in American military power. The reasons for the former are straightforward. As an increasing number of countries opt to settle their international trade using their own national currencies, the dollar's share in global trade is on the decline. By May 2023, the volume of trade conducted in renminbi had exceeded that in dollars in China's trade with other nations. The latter, indicating the waning of American military might, was not initiated by China but rather by Russia. Russia's actions, such as those in the Ukraine crisis, have undermined the stability of the US-led international system. This is due to a hierarchical structure of military power where the highest level is characterized by universal acknowledgement that a hegemonic nation's military power surpasses that of all other nations, thus sustaining its dominance. The second level involves nations expressing discontent with the military force of the hegemon, which in turn increases the cost of sustaining that dominance. The third level materializes when all nations perceive the military power of the hegemon as no longer invincible, ultimately resulting in a notable decline in its hegemonic status. Russia's actions in Ukraine signaled the emergence of nations that began to question the supremacy of American military dominance. Despite the substantial aid provided by the U.S. to Ukraine and comprehensive sanctions imposed on Russia, the latter remained unwavering. Subsequently, the United States, through various actions, indicated the vulnerability of its military might, causing an increasing number of nations to no longer regard American military deterrence as insurmountable. In the contemporary international landscape, the United States military supremacy may soon face even more substantial challenges, particularly if China opts for military means to resolve the Taiwan issue. In the event that the U.S. fails to take decisive action or loses to China in this context, its military deterrence will further dwindle. As China implements a series of measures to undermine the hegemony of the dollar, and exposes the fragility of the American economic foundation. There are discernible signs of economic decline within the United States. One of the most conspicuous indicators is the emergence of trade deficits among some of the United States allies. During the first quarter of 2023, international trade data indicated that most U.S. allies, with the exception of countries like Germany boasting independent industries, and mineral-rich nations such as Australia and Norway, experienced trade deficits. Japan and South Korea, in particular, grappled with severe trade deficit issues, drawing widespread attention. The issue of trade deficits among these U.S. allies is closely linked to the American industrial structure. The United States occupies the core technological position in high value-added industries worldwide, reaping the most substantial benefits from this structure. Subsequently, U.S. allies such as Japan, South Korea, and the UK engage in high-tech industries, securing a competitive edge. Conversely, third-world nations occupy downstream positions within the industry chain and are responsible for supplying raw materials, often engaging in high-pollution, low-profit endeavors. For instance, in the context of civil aircraft production, the United States manufactures core components and assembles airplanes. Meanwhile, Japan and South Korea contribute wings, seats, and other aircraft equipment. Third-world nations supply the raw materials essential for aircraft manufacturing, often engaged in mining and refining, characterized by high pollution and minimal profit margins. From this structural framework, it becomes apparent that Japan and South Korea rely heavily on the United States. In the event that the United States is unable to sell its airplanes, the demand for components from Japan and South Korea will diminish, ultimately leading to an economic downturn within these nations. One of China's pivotal actions is securing support from third-world nations. Given that these nations may lack the capacity to manufacture airplanes, they can instead produce alternative products such as ships. China is strategically building complete industrial chains in collaboration with these nations. Middle Eastern nations have already begun redirecting their oil trade towards China, and South American countries like Brazil and Argentina have initiated transactions conducted in renminbi. Notably, China stands as the only nation boasting a comprehensive industrial chain. Once China attains the ability to domestically produce all industrial goods, other nations may use the renminbi to purchase any industrial product from China while simultaneously selling raw materials required by China. This signifies that third-world nations can collaborate with China not only in the manufacturing of airplanes and ships, but in the production of a wide array of products, including automobiles and trains. Essentially, this signifies that China is gradually displacing the United States from the global production network. In the past, the United States relied on its production capacity, encouraging other nations to adopt the dollar out of habit, underpinned by military power to sustain dollar hegemony. Currently, an increasing number of nations prefer the renminbi, while America's military might is no longer sufficient to support dollar dominance, making America's decline all but inevitable. It's imperative to emphasize that international affairs are characterized by complexity and diversity. The international system is an intricate network where nations serve as both competitors and partners. Cooperation and competition coexist, and international relations entail a negotiation and compromise process rather than a zero-sum game. In managing international affairs, nations must strike a balance between domestic interests and international responsibilities, all while respecting international law and rules. This approach not only contributes to the maintenance of international peace and security but also fosters global prosperity and development. Therefore, China has identified a vulnerability that can be exploited to challenge American dominance, undermining the foundations of dollar hegemony. With China's continued promotion of the renminbi and America's economic challenges becoming increasingly apparent, The United States must act prudently to safeguard its international standing and economic interests. Failure to do so could result in even greater challenges on the global stage, while China continues to bolster its position, further eroding the foundations of dollar hegemony. That concludes today's video. We encourage you to like, subscribe, and activate the notification bell to stay updated on developments in business, economic history, international relations, geopolitics, and world affairs that shape the global landscape and our civilization. Thank you for watching, and we look forward to seeing you in our upcoming videos.